Hey friends, it's really great to see you again. Today I'm answering your questions about Berlin and our move here, so let's get into it. First, Vicky asks, are you planning on hanging out with a predominantly expat crowd or locals? Do you know many folks before you moved? Well, it's certainly a mix. Truth be told, I don't really consider myself an expat here, because for me that word has, certain connotations around it that I don't really agree with. Like, for example, it implies that you're moving to a place overseas for a short time, and then you've gotten this intent to return back to your home country after you're done working. I don't really want that. I've talked about that before, I'm sure. Actually, moving to Europe has been a 10-year goal of mine ever since I went to my first round of KDE meetings in 2012. I already know a lot of folks here. In fact, for most of my life, I've been deeply involved with the free software movement, even before I graduated high school. And through KDE, I've made some amazing lifelong friends here in Europe. Not all of them are in Berlin, of course, but still, Europe is where a lot of my chosen family lives. Two of the coworkers that I worked with are people I've known for about a decade through KDE. Robert asks, how much German did you speak before deciding to move, and how much did you study after you made the decision? Well, the funny thing about having lifelong friends from Germany and abroad is that I can actually read a lot of German pretty well. Of course, IOC is text only, so I literally have no idea how much of it is pronounced, which is a bit difficult. Infrastructure Week asks, I'd love to know more about any of 1, the legal process, 2, where you see feasibility thresholds, stumbling blocks. For example, is it really only viable for in-demand skills like software development, local language is important, or you need about XX in savings? Okay, so a lot of questions. First, the legal process. Everyone's situation is different, but for most people it's done in 2 steps. First, you get a work visa, and this allows you to actually work while living in the country. It lasts about 6 months here in Germany. And for Americans, you can actually just show up at the border and get a tourist visa. That's when you show up at the border and they stamp it, no questions asked. That only lasts for 90 days, and during that time you're not allowed to work. That's what Kieran is here on, which brings me to the next step, a residency permit. It's the thing that actually lets you live here and work here for multiple years. And my permit is going to be called an EU Blue Card, which allows my spouse to live with me and also gives them unlimited working privileges, similar to me. The Blue Card is limited to exceptionally qualified individuals working in jobs which there's a scarcity of qualified workers in the native country, like Germany. For instance, computer science and software engineering, which is why I was hired. Getting the Blue Card also requires that my university degree is recognized by the German authorities, which happened about a week ago, thankfully. The hard part now is the application itself, which the application's pretty straightforward. I fill out a form, I got all the documents, I've got lawyers supporting me. The hard part is actually finding an appointment to submit the application, because as you can probably imagine, things are booked out for months at a time. It's very difficult, but that's a whole other discussion. Infrastructure also asks, your general assessments of alternatives, for example, to Germany for existing connections, but Netherlands would have been easier, wouldn't have attempted Denmark. Well, when I first visited Europe 10 years ago, it was actually Doranda, a small village in Switzerland. It's very tiny, very small, not a lot of people have heard about it, but you should totally go visit. It's just outside of Zermatt, which is a slightly more famous city, or town, I guess. From there, you can see the Matterhorn, which is a famous mountain in southern Switzerland, right on the border of Italy. And by the time I had returned from Ronda, I decided that I wanted to live in Zurich. It was just so cool to me as a kid who grew up on a farm in rural Ohio, far away from any kind of big city with, transit and walkability and neighbors. Next question, starting point. For example, important to find an employer to unlock and guide the process, important to find a blank or agent to organize things, and next steps to the extent you're able to, like taxes, maintaining visa, residency, and citizenship. I think I just answered a lot of that, but we'll talk about the employer part. So getting an employer who will pay for your relocation and get you lawyers for the visa process is really key, if you're able to. There's, other ways that you can, gain a visa and come here. There's like artist visas, there's science visas, universities, all kinds of different things. I only know about the employment Blue Card process. Ambition, my employer, is part of Mercedes-Benz. They also hired Santa Fe, a relocation consultancy firm who ended up being completely freaking useless. If Santa Fe comes along, you're probably on your own, especially if you're a queer person who has a non-binary partner and you want to bring cats, and you're coming from, California during COVID. Useless. So a lot of our stuff had to happen on our own. We had to figure it out. Like, for example, figuring out how much of our HRT medication we could bring, how to get a bank account without an address, how to get registered in Berlin, even get our cats on the plane and import it. And all this they were pretty much useless with. There's other times where we've specifically asked, how do we get our cats there? And they said, oh, we don't do that, even though their website says they do. So at every turn they said, sorry, we can't help you with that. And I really have no idea what they're supposed to help us with, because they haven't done much anything really. They couldn't even find us an apartment because they said, oh, we can't do anything if you've got cats. It's like, thanks. Our lawyers, however, were really amazing people. They're the ones who helped us develop this plan where the two of us, Kieran and I, got married. Well, they changed their gender marker into something that German authorities would recognize for immigration and marriage purposes and whatnot. And if you need immigration assistance, Offer and Mastman in Frankfurt is who you should talk to, specifically Petra Bark. She's really awesome, really great. It also helped, of course, that I know law. So that's like the visa process, and that's the steps for that. As far as like American taxes, I don't know yet. We're still figuring it out. There's other things I'm worried about right now. Loud Oregonian says, I want Berlin streetscape pics. Let's have a streetscape intermission. More of that's going to be coming soon. Kieran took a lot of the videos, I took a lot of videos, a lot of photos. They're really cool. Also make sure you check out Kieran's channel for a lot of that. And follow me on Flickr and Instagram. The links are down in the description below, because I still use those a bunch and I post a bunch of things. Remember Flickr? I do. Farad Umzug asks, what makes you question your most basic assumptions? Here's the ones I notice, but I like hearing what others see. People are just trusted to pay for subway rides. People drink in parks and on the street, and the way that people interact with police. I'm not really sure how to answer this one, actually, because I've been to Berlin many times in the last decade, long enough to even see parts of the city change over years. So, a lot of this is familiar to me. There's not really any assumptions to challenge because they weren't there in the first place for me. However, Kieran, this is their first time in Berlin, their first time in Europe, and their second time out of the United States. So a lot of this is very new and strange to them. And they've got a good video that you can look at. It's got some pretty good examples of what they've learned and their experiences on their channel, so go check them out. Eric asks, or rather says, I should be asleep, but I want to know about the last mile of your move and what surprises, good and bad, there have been for you so far. Well, I'm waiting to wake up from this terrible nightmare. Don't get me wrong, I love the job, I love my coworkers, I love the city, I'm so excited I'm here, but I haven't been paid for February yet, and I probably won't see that money until the end of March. We've already had to borrow around 8,000 euros from friends here just to make ends meet. There's a whole huge mess with getting our cats here. Talked about it a bit in the last video. Our flights also could have gone a lot better. Lufthansa originally told us that our cats were registered for the flights from SFO to Frankfurt and to Berlin. That was a lie. We showed up to the gate. Only one cat was cleared to fly, and even then, only from SFO to Frankfurt. Couldn't get to Berlin from there. 10 minutes before the gates closed, they figured out a way. They got both cats of ours to Frankfurt, and we had to drag our luggage, our cardboard boxes and cats and everything through a long series of canceled trains once we got to Frankfurt. Finally, we arrived here at our apartment 6 hours late. And by that time, all the shops were closed, so Kieran basically hadn't eaten for 3 days. I'm recording this today on March 5th. Hopefully, I will get paid soon. Finally, Lyle asks, is the currywurst as good as they say? Yes. Yeah, it is. Thanks for coming to the Q&A. This is where things are at right now. So once again, thanks for watching this video to the end. I especially want to give links to this list of people who have made this possible. We literally couldn't make it today without their support and their generous help. Seriously, they've lent us like 8,000 euros so far. We're finally settled down enough though for me to do like an actual full RGB 16 biking episode. I've got a 4-day weekend coming up, and I'm going to spend a bunch of it assembling my bicycle and going for my first ride somewhere around here in Berlin. Just out that way is, I think, Grunwald, which is green forest, And there's a bunch of trails, it looks like, back there. There's also the Olympic Stadium, which is like 2 train stops away. So I'm going to hit those up soon, and we'll see what happens. I'm going to try and do that sometime on Monday or Tuesday or whatever. An episode takes me about 3 weeks to put together, so make sure you subscribe and hit that bell so you get notified when I publish it. And look forward to that. Thanks for watching. Thanks for helping us and supporting us, and I will see you next time. May you have a powerful day.
Where's Peridot? Where is she?